You were lied to. Everything they told you about success, about playing fair, about working hard and being patient, it was all designed to keep you obedient. They sold you the myth that virtue alone brings victory. But if that were true, the most honest men would rule the world. And they don't. The world doesn't reward fairness. It rewards leverage. It doesn't pay you for effort. It pays you for control. Welcome to Gaka Mindset, where we don't preach motivation. We dissect the anatomy of power. Because if you don't learn how the game is played, you'll spend your life being played by it. Look around you. The hardest workers are rarely the richest. The kindest people are often the most ignored. Meanwhile, the calmest ones, the ones who never rush, never explain, never shout, somehow own everything. Why? Because they understand the first rule of modern warfare. The system rewards architects, not laborers. This is not cynicism, it's observation. The World Inequality Report shows that 10% of the global population controls over 80% of the world's wealth. The difference isn't intelligence, it's structure. The elite don't play harder, they play smarter. While you're told to grind, someone else designs the system you grind in. That's not conspiracy, it's structure. When you realize this, morality stops being your ceiling. It becomes your compass. Because ethics without strategy is helpless idealism. Strategy without ethics is chaos. The art is balance, the Stoic Machiavellian balance. The law of leverage. In every society, there are three kinds of players: the worker, the investor, and the architect. The worker trades time for money. The investor trades money for more money. The architect designs systems that make both. He earns while he sleeps and controls the rules others live by. Financial leverage is the obvious one: capital, assets, and debt. The rich don't fear debt. They weaponize it. They borrow at 3% to earn at 10%. The tragedy is that most people never rise beyond the first level. They think saving harder or working longer will make them free, not realizing the rich don't work harder. They build leverage. They use capital, technology, relationships, and psychology as multipliers of time. The poor focus on effort. The rich focus on structure. Financial leverage is obvious: debt, equity, and assets that generate yield. But the real game begins when you move beyond money. The second form is social leverage: power through alliances, trust, and reputation. One powerful ally is worth more than 1,000 acquaintances. The rich don't network, they plant influence. Every favor is a seed, every conversation an investment. The third is digital leverage, technology as land. Platforms, code, content, algorithms, these are the new estates of the 21st century. Whoever controls attention controls income. That's why billionaires fight not for products, but for platforms. But the most dangerous leverage is invisible: psychological leverage. It's the ability to read emotion, to anticipate behavior, to control narrative before others even realize they're inside it. The greatest fortunes are made not by predicting markets, but by predicting panic. The crowd buys in euphoria and sells in fear. The Machiavellian waits in silence, buying when others beg for safety, selling when others drown in greed. In 2008, while the world panicked, Warren Buffett invested billions in Goldman Sachs. When others ran, he prepared. That's not bravery. It's virtu, Machiavelli's word for bold intelligence. The readiness to act precisely when fear blinds others. This isn't cruelty, it's cognition. Behavioral science calls it asymmetric awareness, knowing what others will feel before they feel it. Power, in its purest form, is the ability to stay calm when others lose their minds. Real-world reflection, the silent negotiator. Picture two negotiators at a table. One talks fast, floods the air with reasons, and fears silence. The other sits still, barely speaks, eyes calm. Every pause feels like a test. Guess who wins? Research from the Harvard program on negotiation found that the person who speaks less and waits longer holds psychological dominance 67% of the time. Because silence amplifies tension, and tension makes others rush to relieve it. The world doesn't reward the loud, it rewards the composed. The Stoic edge. That's where Stoicism meets Machiavellianism. Machiavelli taught control of others. The Stoics taught control of self. Combine them, and you become untouchable, calm under chaos, dangerous in silence. Stoic Machiavellianism is not about being emotionless. It's about emotional design. You feel everything, but obey nothing. You channel emotion without being consumed by it. Modern neuroscience backs this. Antonio Damasio's research on decision-making shows that humans perform best when emotions are present, but regulated. Not suppressed, regulated. That's what great investors, negotiators, and leaders have in common. They master what psychologists call cognitive composure. Their calm is not personality, it's engineering. In markets, leaders who remain calm during volatility outperform impulsive ones by 23%. The Stoics' calm is not weakness, it's pre-trained clarity. You can see it in markets. When volatility spikes, the average trader sells. The calm investor waits. When crisis hits, the average CEO panics. The calm strategist reorganizes. Calm is not passive. It's the highest form of control. Desperation repels opportunity. Composure attracts it. In biology, predators don't chase. They wait. Power works the same way. The collapse of fairness. Let's be brutally honest. The modern economy is not a meritocracy. It's a hierarchy of perception. Hard work is necessary, but it's not sufficient. The world doesn't care how good you are. It cares how valuable you appear. And appearance is a science. You're not rewarded for being good. You're rewarded for being seen as necessary. Machiavelli wrote that men judge more by the eye than by the hand. In modern language, people buy the story before they buy the substance. Luxury brands prove it. A Rolex doesn't keep better time than a Casio, but it keeps better perception. Apple doesn't just sell phones, it sells identity. Perception becomes profit when narrative becomes strategy. This is the harsh truth most people refuse to face. They cling to moral fairness because it feels safe. But fairness only exists between equals in power. Between unequals, fairness is theater. The strong don't wait for justice. They create balance through control. Machiavelli wrote that men forget the death of their father sooner than the loss of their inheritance. He wasn't glorifying greed, he was describing reality. Money reveals loyalty, fear, and truth faster than words ever will. So what does that mean for you? It means stop expecting morality from systems built on incentives. Learn the rules, then use them. Leverage them, redesign them. Power psychology. How control begins in the mind. Everything in this world runs on one law. Control flows to those who appear calmer. Behavioral studies in leadership show that perceived calm is read as competence. In negotiations, the quieter voice usually dominates because silence creates pressure. That's why billionaires sound almost bored in interviews. They speak in tonal neutrality. Interesting. We'll see. It's complicated. Behind that tone is strategic composure. That detachment is not arrogance. It's leverage. The person who needs less always controls the person who needs more. The person who can walk away always dictates terms. Detachment is not coldness. It's power conservation. It's Stoicism weaponized. The modern Machiavellian doesn't scream power. He radiates it. His confidence is gravitational, not performative. He never tries to convince. He simply controls tempo. Every pause is deliberate. Every word, a trigger. Every silence, a negotiation. The emotional arbitrage. If you want to understand why the rich seem calm while the masses panic, here's the truth. They don't avoid emotion. They trade it. When fear floods the market, they buy. When greed floods the market, they sell. It's emotional arbitrage. The price of power is always written in someone else's feelings. To win, you must learn to see emotion as energy. Transferable, predictable, exploitable. Real-world example. During the 2020 market panic, while millions of investors fled, a handful of portfolio managers at Bridgewater and BlackRock calmly rebalanced positions. They didn't predict the future. They predicted panic. Within months, their calm compounded into billions. This wasn't luck. It was behavioral discipline, Stoicism applied to finance. That's what Stoicism really means in the 21st century. It's not about sitting in a cave meditating on virtue. It's about maintaining clarity while the digital world burns around you. It's about recognizing that every viral outrage, every panic headline, every market drop, every political storm is just a test of your internal thermostat. The Machiavellian doesn't fight the storm. He studies the wind. Because the crowd reacts, the strategist predicts, and prediction is the new prophecy. The science of calm authority behavioral economics confirms what ancient philosophy already knew. People follow composure, not charisma. When uncertainty rises, the brain's amygdala scans for signals of safety. Calm leaders are neurologically magnetic. They reduce cortisol levels in observers, increasing trust. That's why, in crisis, followers look for voices that don't flinch. So when you learn to be calm, not perform calm, but embody it, you become psychologically dominant. You stop chasing attention. Attention starts orbiting you. You don't need to beg for respect. Respect grows from silence. In the economy of perception, calm is currency. Every second you delay a reaction, you buy control. That's why Machiavelli would have loved neuroscience. He understood something modern science is only now proving. The one who controls emotion controls behavior, and the one who controls behavior controls wealth. You're still here because something inside you recognizes the pattern. You've seen people less talented than you rise faster. You've seen calm men outlast loud ones. And you've felt that quiet envy when someone walks into a room and everyone subconsciously adjusts to their presence. That's not magic. It's mastery of energy. It's aura economics. In the next part, we'll expose how perception becomes currency, how scarcity breeds demand, and how the world's richest people quietly manipulate narrative to control reality itself. The Architect Mind, Part 2. Perception is the new currency. We live in an age where truth has less value than what appears true. Power is no longer held by those who own resources, but by those who can control attention. The game isn't about having, it's about seeming indispensable. And whoever controls perception controls the flow of wealth. Look at every empire of this century. Apple, Tesla, Louis Vuitton, even personal brands on social media. They don't just sell products, they sell a story about identity. People don't buy the car, they buy the status of driving it. They don't buy the bag, they buy the sense of belonging to a higher tribe. It's not logic that moves markets, it's emotion dressed as logic. Harvard Business Review found that more than 70% of purchasing decisions are emotional before they're rationalized. That's not marketing, it's psychology weaponized. The rich understand this. They don't shout their worth. They let mystery raise the price. Scarcity makes value, and silence creates gravity. Elon Musk can move billions with 3 words, not because he's magical, but because he's selective. Every message is a trigger. every pause a strategy. Machiavelli said men judge more by the eye than by the hand. People believe what they see, not what's real. Appearance becomes the battlefield of power. Behavioral economics calls this signal theory. When you appear calm, competent, and scarce, people infer value. When you appear available, emotional, and eager, they discount you. That's why the loudest man in the room is rarely the most powerful. The world associates noise with neediness. True wealth whispers. Real influence moves without motion. To master perception, you need to control 3 levers: image, timing, and mystery. First, image. How you present yourself even in silence. Dress with intention, not extravagance. Simplicity reads as certainty. Flamboyance smells like insecurity. Second, timing. When you choose to appear. In markets, in meetings, in life, presence is a resource. Spend it sparingly. Third, mystery. Never reveal the full blueprint. Leave gaps for imagination. People pay more for what they can't fully read. Behavioral scientists call this information gap theory. Curiosity drives engagement, and uncertainty amplifies perceived worth. Now ask yourself, are you signaling power or pleading for it? The modern Machiavellian doesn't manipulate people. He manipulates perception. He turns attention into trust, trust into money, and money back into attention. It's a feedback loop of dominance. The poor chase validation. The rich manufacture gravity. Control, then, isn't about shouting orders. It's about shaping context. In any negotiation, the calmest one controls the tempo. The one who can delay reaction creates pressure. Silence is a mirror. The longer it lasts, the more the other side exposes themselves trying to fill it. That's why billionaires answer with, "Let's revisit that," instead of yes or no. Ambiguity keeps options open and competitors guessing. This is what I call asymmetric advantage, winning not by force, but by geometry. You change the angle of the game so others can't compete on your terms. Jeff Bezos did it with Amazon. For years, he lost money selling books because he wasn't playing the retail game. He was building the infrastructure game. When the world realized it, it was already too late. He owned the supply chain of commerce itself. That's not luck. That's asymmetry. Real power hides in what's boring. Payment networks, logistics, server farms, these are invisible infrastructures. Everyone uses them. Few understand who profits from them. The modern architect doesn't need to be famous. He needs to be foundational. The more invisible your control, the safer your throne. And yet, the greatest form of power isn't in owning systems. It's in owning yourself. Detachment is the highest currency. When you no longer crave approval, you become immune to manipulation. The person who needs nothing cannot be controlled. Stoicism called it apatheia, the state of unshakable calm. Machiavellianism turns it into a strategy. Emotional independence equals negotiating leverage. Every empire that collapsed shared one pattern: leaders who became addicted to validation. They sought applause instead of authority. Recognition is a trap. It comes before readiness and fades before legacy. That's why the wise wait to be underestimated. They let silence ripen into inevitability. If you can master detachment, you'll notice the world begins to bend around you. You'll speak slower. You'll make fewer moves, but each one will echo longer. You'll trade quick wins for quiet dominance, because you finally understand that control is not something you take. It's something others give to you when they trust your composure more than their own judgment. The evolution of power follows a hidden staircase. You start as the observer, the one who realizes the rules of fairness or lies. Then you become the strategist. You learn leverage, perception, timing. Next comes the architect. You build systems that operate without you, frameworks that multiply while you rest. But the final stage, few ever reach. the sage, the one who controls power without needing to prove it, the one who no longer reacts to praise or insult, gain or loss. That's not detachment from life. That's mastery of it. At this point, wealth becomes identity, not in vanity, but in structure. You don't have money. Money obeys you. You don't seek opportunities. Opportunities orbit your calm. That's the quiet paradox of control. The less you show, the more you hold. Part 3, power without a blueprint turns to chaos. Most people chase goals. They don't build systems. They dream about wealth, but never engineer the structure that produces it. They think success is an event. It's not. It's an architecture, a machine that multiplies calm, control, and capital. Let's break that architecture down into something practical. The modern Machiavellian doesn't just think bigger, he thinks in systems. Each system amplifies leverage and minimizes emotion. There are 5 steps to this transformation. Step 1, audit your dependencies. List everything you rely on: bosses, paychecks, attention, approval. Every dependency is a leash. You can't own your time if someone else owns your validation. Freedom starts with awareness. Ask, if this vanished tomorrow, how long until I collapse? The goal isn't to cut everything. It's to identify where you've traded control for comfort. Step 2, build asymmetric positions. Don't compete where everyone else is screaming. Move sideways, not forward. In business, that means finding uncontested markets. In life, it means developing rare combinations of skills. The power player doesn't try to be the best at one thing. He becomes the only one who can do what he does. That's how you create leverage without conflict. When you stop chasing applause and start designing asymmetry, you stop being replaceable. Step 3, design silent systems. Automate what drains you, delegate what distracts you, systematize what repeats. The rich don't grind harder. They build feedback loops that compound in silence. Money grows while they sleep. Influence grows while they stay quiet. Systems are the Stoic version of control. They remove emotion from the process. If you can't sleep while your empire runs, you don't own a system, you own a job. Step 4, project aura strategically. Don't announce plans, execute them. In psychology, this is called signal delay, the gap between intention and revelation. It builds mystique and authority. Speak less, deliver more. Use scarcity as your brand. In a world addicted to overexposure, invisibility becomes luxury. The less you show, the more people assume you know. That's why calm confidence, steady eye contact, slow movements, clear tone is the strongest social signal of control. People trust gravity more than volume. Step 5, detach from outcome. When you no longer need the deal, the client, or the approval, you negotiate from strength. Detachment is the purest leverage. You stop reacting to wins or losses because both are data, not destiny. Every failure reveals a pattern. Every rejection refines your next strike. That's how Machiavellians turn loss into leverage, by refusing to assign emotion to events. This is not philosophy, it's neuroeconomics. Studies in behavioral finance show that investors who check their portfolios less often outperform those who check daily. Why? Because less emotion means fewer impulsive decisions. In power, patience compounds like interest. Now let's talk about crisis, the favorite playground of the strategist. When chaos hits, the average person freezes, the architect recalibrates. He knows every storm hides opportunity. The formula is simple: chaos plus calm plus cash equals power. It's why the rich buy when others panic. During the 2020 crash, while most sold in fear, the top 1% quietly bought assets at half price. The reward wasn't bravery, it was preparation. Virtu, as Machiavelli called it, intelligent boldness. Psychologists call this preemptive composure, the ability to pre-train your mind for volatility. It's the same reason elite soldiers rehearse chaos. They've felt the fear before, so it doesn't own them. You can do the same financially, emotionally, socially. Visualize disaster, then build countermeasures. Calm isn't luck, it's rehearsal. Let's return to control. Every powerful person asks 3 questions before acting. Does this increase or decrease my leverage? Does this make me appear in control or reactive? Does this make others more dependent on me or less? If the answer increases leverage, calm, and dependency, you're moving correctly. That's the compass of power. Now imagine applying this not just to money, but to relationships. The person who needs attention loses power. The one who can stay silent becomes magnetic. This isn't manipulation, it's behavioral truth. Humans crave certainty, and certainty lives in composure. When you master emotional neutrality, people project authority onto you automatically. You become the reference point in every room, the one others calibrate around. That's why you must learn to weaponize patience. In negotiation, silence is not absence, it's tension. The more comfortable you are with pauses, the faster others reveal their fears. In a world addicted to instant response, delayed reaction is dominance. When you pause, you force others to confront their own insecurity. That's Machiavellian Stoicism, turning stillness into strategy. But none of this works without competence. Projection without mastery is performance, and performance collapses. Behind every calm billionaire are decades of precision, data, and discipline. They don't fake power, they compound it. Their silence is backed by results. Their aura is built on repetition. The modern world rewards the illusion of depth, but only substance sustains it. You can fake charisma for a while, but not consistency. So build competence so strong it becomes quiet. Mastery speaks in whispers. The moment you no longer need to prove, you've already won. Validation fades, but capability compounds. In the next chapter, you'll see how all this fuses together, the psychology, the economics, the philosophy, into one final transformation. From player to architect, from architect to sage. When you rise above noise, you begin to hear patterns. Power isn't loud, it's rhythmic. The masses move in chaos, reacting to every stimulus. The architect moves in tempo, orchestrating each reaction before it happens. That's the final evolution. Not domination, but direction. At the highest level, wealth, power, and peace all converge into one discipline: control of attention. Every empire, corporate, political, or personal, was built on attention first, money second. Whoever holds attention shapes behavior. Whoever shapes behavior controls outcomes. That's why the wise never chase followers. They train environments to follow their rhythm. This is aura economics in motion. People don't respond to logic, they respond to energy. Calm authority bends perception. When you enter a room and move slower, speak lower, the collective nervous system adjusts to you. It's not mysticism, it's neurobiology. Human mirror neurons sync with dominant emotional patterns. Control your state, and you unconsciously control others. That's why stillness, when intentional, radiates gravity. But beware, the aura must rest on structure. Projection without substance breeds collapse. True Machiavellianism is competence first, perception second. The Stoic discipline ensures that what you project is sustainable. Behind every whisper of confidence lies thousands of silent hours mastering a craft, understanding systems, predicting human nature. You can fake charisma. You can't fake repetition. Eventually, the line between wealth and identity dissolves. You no longer work for money. Money works as an extension of your mind. You don't chase opportunity, you construct probability. That's the architect mind, a consciousness that sees systems where others see struggles. It doesn't hope for better circumstances, it engineers them. The internal algorithm of power compounds when you stop trying to prove it. When you speak less, people interpret more. When you delay reaction, you multiply tension. When you stop demanding respect, it arrives uninvited. Behavioral science explains why. Ambiguity increases cognitive load. People fill gaps with assumptions, and assumptions, when managed, become leverage. So make uncertainty your ally. Let others wonder. Let silence do what noise never could. Every pause, every glance, every choice not to explain is a strategic investment. You don't owe the world transparency. Transparency benefits those above you. Opaqueness protects those who build empires. Machiavelli called it the art of appearances. Modern psychology calls it framing. The goal is not deceit, it's design. You don't manipulate facts, you curate focus. The crowd doesn't need all your truth. They need the portion that moves them in your direction. Turning insight into discipline, power dies without ritual. To turn this philosophy into practice, create 3 daily disciplines. The silence block. Spend 1 hour every morning with no noise, no input, no reaction. In silence, patterns surface. This resets your emotional thermostat, turning calm into habit. The audit ritual. Every week, write down where you lost control. Time wasted, impulses obeyed, people who drained energy. Replace one dependency with a system each week. That's real progress. The detachment drill. Pick one thing you're emotionally attached to, a deal, a relationship, an opinion, and practice walking away mentally. Freedom grows where attachment dies. These rituals are modern Stoicism in action, behavioral engineering for clarity. They train your nervous system to choose precision over panic, patience over pressure. And that's when the world starts responding differently. You no longer chase, you attract. The final transformation. At this stage, the goal shifts. It's not about wealth, it's about freedom from need. When you no longer crave money, status, or validation, you achieve the highest Machiavellian virtue, invisibility. You move unseen, but everything moves because of you. Influence outlives income. Presence outlasts applause. Power, in the end, is quiet orchestration. You don't fight markets, you redirect momentum. You don't force loyalty, you inspire dependence. You don't argue morality, you engineer results that make morality irrelevant. The Stoic keeps peace within. The Machiavellian shapes peace without. Together, they form the perfect strategist, composed, decisive, unreadable. The greatest players are never seen playing. They let others dance to invisible strings. You can join them, not by becoming ruthless, but by becoming clear. Clarity is the sharpest weapon in a fog of noise. Once you see how perception, emotion, and leverage intertwine, you can't unsee it. You start to design moves 3, 5, 10 steps ahead. You speak slower, think longer, and act only when probability favors precision. The game stops being about winning. It becomes about inevitability. The silent creed. I don't chase wealth. I build systems that make wealth inevitable. I don't seek attention. I command focus through calm. I don't ask permission. I write the rules. When others panic, I stay still. When others shout, I calculate. Because calm is the loudest proof of mastery. Remember, fairness is a myth sold to the obedient. Freedom belongs to the composed. And in a world that rewards noise, silence is the final luxury. If you're ready to rise above emotion, illusion, and noise, if you want to learn the modern art of control, presence, and strategy, then stay with me. Subscribe to Gaka Mindset, not to be inspired, but to see reality as it is. We share what the powerful already know.